Greetings, YouTube. I imagine that most GMs at some point in their career have encountered a situation which is bittersweet. A campaign that ends before you think it should have ended. I'm pretty sure we've all encountered that. You had a grand story arc, it was going to go from point A to point B, and you had all these things you wanted to do along the way, and then you're going, hey, it's going great, boom, poof, and it just stops. The group breaks up, you move, school ends. There could be 100 different reasons why the campaign never actually completes its course. Maybe the group just gets tired of playing that particular game. They want to move on to miniatures, or they want to play fantasy instead of science fiction, or they want to do some modern playing. It doesn't really matter what the reason is, but it's frustrating when it happens. And the last time I think I had that happen, it was a 3rd edition campaign, and I had started the characters at 1st level. The group eventually became known as the Band of Bancroft. Blackcroft. Blackcroft was the closest village to where their farm had been, where they had been raised. It started out as a kind of catch-can group of adventurers. I wanted to pull them together, but I wanted them to be, a little drama thrown in. So they were all refugees of a orc raid. Excuse me. And they had been the children that had survived a raid by orcs some 10 years in the past. And they had all been raised on a farm that had taken them in because most of them, their families had been killed. And they were the survivors. And the game started out as 1st level, and I played it up, the very nascent little weakling characters just starting out in life, and the major adventure that was like going and finding some resources that they had to get their hands on. They actually had to go dig up some unused metal so that the farm blacksmith and then forged them the tools for their adventuring career. And I really started them up from the basics. And of course their careers took off, and they adventured and became quite powerful. I believe the campaign died when they were like 14th level, and it was about 2 years in. But it never got to where I wanted it to. And where I wanted it to go was a fusion of standard Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 and the Dragon Star science fantasy game. Now, Dragon Star was a line of books, and I highly recommend them. I don't know if I've ever spoken about them before, that fused science fiction and Dungeons & Dragons completely. It was actual science fiction with D&D. It was a world of lasers and blasters and spaceships and orcs in powered armor, and fully fused with all 9 level spells and psionics and the whole 9 yards. It was a world where the Dragon Wars had dragged on for millennia until they had decided that they would form an imperial government where each dragon house would get a chance to rule, and that way the dragons would stop murdering each other, at least out in the open. So it's a really interesting take on Dungeons & Dragons, and it kind of takes the Spelljammer idea to the next level, if you will. Really completely fusing it with the classic Star Wars type of science fiction, as opposed to more of the Victorian phlogiston, trip to the moon, H.G. Wells of Spelljammer. What I had planned on doing with this campaign when it just died was that the characters were going to go on this rather lengthy adventure to the jungle. And when they came back, things were not going well. They were going to discover that the world was under attack. Not just their country, but their entire planet. The Dragon Empire of the Dragon Star campaign had arrived. Pulled into orbit, was orbitally bombing the planet, and was about to make their world, which was Faerun, part of the Dragon Empire, whether they wanted to be or not. And the campaign was going to have 3 options. Essentially, they could surrender. They could become part of the Dragon Empire, be assimilated into it. they could resist, become the resistance. And frankly, that would have been the shortest option because there is pretty much no way for them to beat the Dragon Empire. You can't do it. The Dragon Empire is just too old and too powerful, and this small band of adventurers wasn't going to be able to pull that off. If the Dragon Empire eventually feels that your planet is enough of a pain in the butt, it will just bomb it from orbit until it's gone and move on to the next planet. They don't handle resistance well. Particularly because at the time of the invasion, the Red Dragons were in charge of the Empire. They are a little harsher than the Metallic Dragons were. And the last option was going to be for the player characters to run. A very powerful non-player character in the campaign known as Otto, he owned Otto's Oddities, was going to give them an option where he had a dimensional gate which they could travel through in one way and leave, and he had been preparing for this kind of thing forever. He always had a cutout. He was always planning a way to get away in case things got a little too warm, and he decided that, maybe it was just smart to retire. But sadly, I never got to do that. I never got to invade the planet. I never got to use the actual art I had scavenged up so that I could then have the player characters having, we're being invaded by demons, because the common people seeing people in stormtroopers type armor as demons, these faceless individuals just marching towards them. And then I was going to be able to flash the picture of this orc in stormtrooper style armor at them. I never got to describe them being attacked by orbital bombardment or lasers or blasters or things like that, and it was always kind of sad. So I asked the YouTube role-playing community, what is the campaign that you always wanted to end? You always wanted to bring it to the closing point, but you never got to. It just ended too soon.